Morning, everybody. Welcome to Is It Really Worth It podcast. I'm here today with Norman Buckland. I'd just like to give an intro and a shout out to our sponsors, Tripod Crest Limited Northampton. All your planing work, your civil engineering work, your scaffolding work. Tripod's kind of got it all covered. So if you want anything, any contract, any job covering, Tripod Crest is your go-to company. So I'm here this morning with Norman William George Buckland, the legend himself. Good morning.
The Guvnor!
How you doing, Norman?
All right, mate. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
So, listen, it's been a colourful roller coaster of a life, but where did it all begin? Where did it start?
Well, my old man used to do the doors in Aylesbury, you know, and his granddad, my grandma, got brought up by my grandmother. Me and my brother by ourselves, like we got sort of abandoned when we was about 7 or 8 years of age, like, so we had to bring up. But you know, I love my mum and I love my dad, like, you know, the things weren't working out, so we got sent over to Spain for a few years, so we didn't see him for a long time. But the old man, I can remember, and my uncle Chris and Danny and Donald, they were a force in Aylesbury. They used to do all the doors. And the old man Bucky come from London. He used to fight at the thing there. What was it called now? Like Camden, Kentish. The old fighting fair, great big old fighting fair. He was like the governor there at the fighting fair.
Canning Town?
No, he was a fair. Something, I forget the name of the fair. But he used to fight there. He was the governor there, like, you know what I mean. So Bucky, they used to call him, and my grandmother's grandfather, through her blood, was the what are they now? Coopers, Gypsy Jack and Gypsy George Cooper, and she used to tell me stories about him as a kid, like, you know what I mean. When I was over in Spain, I used to live with her, like, there was no real TV. It's all in Spanish and one channel in black and white. Yeah. And she used to say, translate. She wanted me to translate all the time. And you're trying to watch a film, you're trying to get into it. And when she's saying translate, she said, if you don't translate, I'll turn the telly off. So you've got to make half it up, ain't you? Bless. I remember some of the films, King Kong, the original first King Kong. That was out in the 30s. In the late 60s and 70s, that just got over to Spain, like, you know what I mean? And it was great. And her grandparents, we come from Travers, that side. On my mum's side, we come from Cork, O'Sullivan's.
Oh, yeah.
And I found out now that all the family went over to America.
So you've got good fighting DNA with the travelling and the Irish stuff.
Jewish. There's Bensons. Come from Bensons as well. They're Jewish, like, you know what I mean? And but they were the hard Jewish, the tough boys, like, like the gangsters and that, like, you know. So from all angles, they come from I'm the soft one, really, out of the family, because I don't really hate anyone. I ain't got it in for anyone, and I'm forgiving as well.
Not hating anybody don't make you soft, Norman.
No, I'm forgiving as well. You know what I mean?
That's the mark of a man, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that's a great mark in a man.
And sometimes to let things go, you've got to try and forgive.
You can't progress if you don't let it go.
If you don't let it go, it will never leave you, like, you know what I mean? It'll eat you away to the day you die.
Yep.
And you'll be saying on the day you die, or on your will, don't let these people turn up and, you know, on my funeral, I don't like them.
Yeah.
When I die, fuck me, I want people to turn up.
Yeah.
Even if I've got to pay you, turn up. At least. And this is, I've fallen out with a few people, right? And I said, look, I know we've fallen, but please turn up at my funeral, right? They're going to help, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. So
but
what?
No, there's no real hate there.
No, that's good. That's good. So what was your schooling like, Norman?
No education. This is one mistake I'd like to say to the kids here. Like, education is a forward. It's got to be if you ain't got no education, there's no future. There's no way forward. Like without education, you're gonna be like me. All you can do is the doors. All you can do is fucking debt collect. All you can do is the nasty work. So learn off me. Get a fucking education. Like do it properly. Do it. Go to school. Because if you don't go to school, like you're gonna end up like me. And I'm not a bad person, but being amongst violence all your life finally gets you and it chews you up and you turn violent.
Yeah.
And you don't think in your heart you're not violent, but some of these boys like to deal with it.
Yeah.
They would have shot me, killed me, wouldn't have
Yeah.
thought twice about it, like, you know. So you got up the stakes, like.
So where did the fighting begin in your life? You know, what kind of, at what point, there must have been a 14, but you were working on the doors very young.
10. Well, this is the author. I've got a book out next year. The new Guvnor. I'm the old Guvnor, really, but the new Guvnor. Like, there's lots of governors. It don't bother me. Like, I love you all. Like, you know, all the governors, I love you. I love it, and especially the old ones. You know,
Lenny,
the old governors.
Lenny, Roy.
Roy Shaw. Fucking love you, Roy Shaw, and your family, Lenny McLean.
Yeah.
His family. I worship you all. Although you weren't angels, like. I used to watch them in the 70s, like, one of their fights, like, and I'd rather watch that than watch a world title fight. And I thought if they walked down the street, people would walk the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Well, they would never bother. They wouldn't bother them. And I thought I want to be like that. But at 14 years of age, you'd get picked on a lot, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I had it in me because my family were tough. Come from on my mum's side, a tough Irish family. O'Sullivans from Cork and the Bucklands and the Jews and gypsies, mainly gypsies as well, like, you know. So I had the stock there, like, you know what I mean? But I had to spew it out, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had to get it out, like, and
So, boxing, was there any boxing at that age, you know?
Yeah. My dad was boxing. Even in his 30s, I used to go and watch my dad box.
Yeah.
And he would box. The last bloke he sparred with, he was too old then, like, he was in his well into his 40s. And I mean, even the bloke he sparred with was Timmy Collins, 3 times ABA champion. He was the man from Aylesbury. Everyone knew Timmy Collins, like, 3 times ABA champions.
Feet.
You know what I mean? 3 times. You know, once is good. As a junior, like, I think it's mainly a schoolboy champion and everything as a junior, like. And as he went through, like, as a senior, like, but the fucking body on him was fantastic. Like, he was a doorman everywhere before me, and my dad was.
Yeah.
And they had a falling out, and my dad was fantastic on the cobbles. He was 5'4", my old man was, but he had these great big hands. And my nan used to say he takes after his granddad or his great granddad, Gypsy Jack Cooper or Gypsy George Cooper. And jet black hair like coal it was, and he was tanned as well. You know what I mean? He was just strange, he was, like, you know what I mean? And he was ever so quiet. And he got me into the door work, me and my brother Alfie. My brother Alfie boxed for England. I was not like ABA champion. I fought for the home king, used to fight for the home county all the time. My dad coached me, trained me as a kid. Then it was Billy Hutchison. He was combined service champion, RAF, Army, and Navy champion.
Good.
That is big potato.
Yeah,
like.
good.
And he trained me for years. Like.
Always very fit boys, weren't they?
Oh, they used to fight. Not only the SAS they used to fight, they used to fight anyone in the world.
Yeah.
He used to travel, because he was in the RAF, he used to spend more time boxing than anything else. Like, he'd had nearly 300 fights.
Wow.
He's a fella in Aylesbury, everyone knows him now, they love him. You know what I mean? He's a lovable bloke. And you always see him running down the Buckingham Road, like, he's always running. And he's
Still to this day?
To his 70s, yeah.
Ah, brilliant.
To his 70s, like, you know what I mean? Because he's only about 10 or 11 stone, he's only small, but he's got a great reputation. And there was from Pete Garnish from Tyne, I boxed, he was heavily into the ABA, like. And if you fought for him, like, you had to be the right. I was £4 over one fight, and they wouldn't have it, like.
That's right, yeah,
So
very
Christmas,
strict.
I said, oh, Billy, you know,
Yeah.
turkey and stuff. And he said, no. And AB, over Milton Keynes, bless you balls, AB, I used to box for AB and a bloke called John, AB Goldsmith. And that's where, they were great fights. I used to spar with welterweights, two great welterweights who used to win everything. Charlie Johnson and the Mo Smithers. And although I was a light heavyweight, they used to fast me up all the time.
Yeah,
but
well,
they were
that...
like schoolboy champions and ABA champions.
Yeah, that will tweak your speed up.
And because you get in with an heavyweight, and the heavyweight would be slow.
Yeah.
And you think, Jesus, this is easy.
Yeah.
But it's because I found, and because they're welterweights, you're not trying, you can't knock them out anyway, they're too quick.
Yeah.
But because you know them, and that's where they get the best. But in my day at 25, everyone, even you, there's somewhere in your life, even you guys, there's somewhere, and people watching, there's somewhere in your life, in your 20s or your teens, you've had 6 months or 2 months or maybe even a month where you've woke up in the morning and you will take the world on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And if you catch that with boxing, if you mix that with boxing, you'll probably be world champion because it's in there in your head.
Yeah.
And I think 25 for about 12 months, like, I was fighting people on that, you know what I mean? I mean, towards the end, you was there, you used to fight in the same bill as me at times. Caesar's Palace, Little Scotland, what's its name?
Corby,
bless it. And all over the place we used to box together. But I was nearly 50 years old, in my late 40s. And I was fat and old, but I still used to win all my fights.
Yeah.
That's when I won the Guvnor title, the London Guvnor title.
That's these belts.
Roy Shaw passed me down there. Bless him, like, but, you know, I've never parted with that belt. You know, that come from Roy Shaw, the Governor's belt, London, what Lenny was involved with, and mainly the old man Joey Pole. But that's why I won't part with the belt. And maybe one day they'll ask me to give it out, and I'll give it out, like, you know what I mean? That belongs, as far as I'm concerned, with Joey Pole and the old London boys, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was great, you know what I mean? So it's a memory there. That's my own belt, but that's British, you know what I mean? That's Stormy Norman Buckland belt. But they called it the Governor belt. I hope, like, you know what I mean, Joey Pyle and that don't mind.
Yeah.
Because I've got a great respect.
As
I get on, like, as you see, they really give us a run for our money who we met, and they, you know what I mean? Fucking gangster's paradise, wasn't it? Like, we used to turn up at Caesars. And then the old man Joey Pyle was lovely, like.
Gentleman.
Ricky, I'll never mention Ricky English. Ricky, I love you to pieces, you know I love you. Young Joey Pole, anything I can do, just phone me up, you know that. We've had, like, you know, people have stirred a bit of trouble up in the past. I love you, I'm loyal, you know what I mean? I'll never leave your side, so your side, mate, you know what I mean? But I'll give it out to Gary Furby, like, because he's a top boy about at the moment, like, you know.
Yeah, I know Gary, good kid Gary.
Gary Furby, I'm very loyal to Gary Furby, but he's fought a lot. He was fighting with us.
Yeah, he was on some of the shows with us.
Because I can remember you stood out and he stood out. Then I never seen him for a long time. And I had that thing like Matt Legg. You had that thing, there's going to be someone there. This is someone like this. Is going to be someone special.
Yeah.
And I was grateful, like, you know what I mean? So that's the belt with bare knuckle fight, and that's the Stormy Norman bare knuckle belt. And that goes worldwide. That's all over the world, like, you know what I mean? Because I'm the Governor, they call it the Governor fight, the Governor belt. But the Governor belt is the London belt. Yeah. And Joey Pole's in charge of that. Joey, I love you, you know what I mean? And Ricky English, I haven't contacted him for a while. But, you know what I mean? We all move on, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
But all the boys and all the gangsters from the old times, I love you all and your families, and I've never upset you. And the ones, God bless you, are looking down on me now. I love you, and I'll never let you down. I'm a loyal person, very, very loyal, honest, truthful, like, all right, I've gone a bit bent now and again, like, you know what I mean? Like you do, you get in the fights, you hurt people, and you regret it. And any kids what are watching this now, get your education, because if you don't get your education, you'll end up like me, and it's not funny, like, you know, my wife, she's Filipino, she reads and writes for me, she looks after me, like, without her I'd be nothing, you know what I mean?
Lovely.
And so really I'd like this to go out with the kids. If they could just go to a boxing club and maybe do a bit of boxing for a couple of weeks, they might like it, you know what I mean? You don't have to fight.
Yeah.
Just go down there and you watch the phones, you know what I mean? Just go, that's Johnny's boy. That's Johnny's boys down the club, like, they're all talk. And they'll have a bit of respect, like, you know what I mean? He's one of the old firm, like, he's joining us, like. And then when you have one or two, listen, I don't care if you lose all your fights. The bottle is getting into that ring, like, you know what I mean? If If you get in that ring, that's a lot of bottle, like, a lot of stress. You know what I mean? Win or lose, like, you know what I mean? Have a few fights. If you want to stick it out. If you don't, don't. But you've tried something, like, you know what I mean? At least you've tried something. But remember that paperwork and those school days, if you want to get somewhere in life, you've got to have that, like. Or you end up like me, you know what I mean? Having a wife that's got to look after me all the time. And I don't tell anyone, but she beats me up as well.
Right. Going back to your teenage years, Norman. So you started boxing at a young age. Your teenage years must have been lively.
It was cruel, you know what I mean? I was over Spain 1 year and over here another year, and over Spain 1 year and over here another year. And when I come back, you know, I used to live with my dad and my brother, like, and they used to have crows and pigeons and everything in the front room, like, and we had this dog called Rebel. I think everyone knows a Doberman used to bite everyone, and it was snappy, like. I used to go to school with like clothes ripped where the dog had pissed. I was how can I say it? I was like a tramp, really. You know what I mean? I was a tramp, and I didn't have no clothes. I should be saying this because my brother's he's right up there with the Masons now. Sorry, but I'm not going to get him involved in this. But someone used to nick all the clothes off the next door neighbour's lines and down the road, you know. And I didn't know because I'd wear them to school and I'd wear them out. And you'd have all the kids down the road chase me up the road, wanting their clothes back, you know. That's how bad it was.
But that's...
Underpants, 6 months. You never used to change for 6 months.
Yeah.
I never said bath in my life.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was the way it was, like. I used to knock about, I used to go with a lot of the travellers, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll give them credit, you know. I mean, the last few kids, well, I had 4 from 3 different wives, and, well, 6 altogether. And I brought them up by myself. And when I had to work during the day, I used to send down a traveller cap, like, and Paddy O'Marlin and his family, he was in charge down there. And they'd look after, they'd always give them a dinner and keep their eye on the kids, like. And people say, you know, this, that about travellers, but they looked after my
Some of the greatest people. Some of the nicest...
hard, like, you know what I mean?
Some of the nicest, loyalist
Yeah.
people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, no, they're lovely. And I trained one of the boys out down there, Danny Duran, the younger boy. I told him he'd be ABA champion if he get, but he just didn't want to go and see a doctor.
Yeah.
Because he said doctors touch you up and stuff. He could have been ABA champion. And I always said, one day, the boxing really comes from the Jews, the Irish and the Gypsies. I said, one day they'll be back up there again, like,
Yeah.
especially the travellers, like.
Yeah. Well, look,
Living in now, like,
Tyson,
yeah,
Billy
yeah.
Joel,
Yeah.
you know, they're all singing their song now, aren't they?
Fantastic, aren't they?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So, from your teens into your 20s, Norman, what was life, you know, how was life for you then?
I wanted someone like my missus, right, to come along and show me some love. Didn't have a mum about. I used to see my mum now and again. Siobhan Buckland, Siobhan O'Sullivan. I used to pop up there, she'd be up the pub, like, and I used to pop up and see her. But the best thing what's happened to me is come late in life, and that's my wife.
So you were...
I had a nasty life, didn't I? You know what I mean? Fuck me. I used to wear my brother's shoes and socks, and you know what I mean? Even when they put me at school, I couldn't read all right.
Yeah.
I was too confused. I went over to Spain. Now, si habla español, yo puedo hablar español. Yo no hablo español por muchos años, pero ahora puedo hablar. I can still speak Spanish, but that was instead of the education.
Yeah.
So I've learnt this language, but I don't use it at all. But I can still speak it.
Yeah.
But it's my education I really wanted, like, you know.
So...
Well, I think I can speak it. Probably can't understand a word I'm saying.
But you were working. You were working as a doorman.
10, even in the book, like, so I can't put 10. I said, well, check up. Everything what went in this book, he checked it up.
Yeah.
He said, who's around you? Like, it was, darling, who's the author of the book?
Lee Worsley and Anthony Thomas.
Yeah, Lee Worsley. Everything I said, he checked it up, like. 'Cause he
Yeah.
said, I've done books before, and after letting them go, I found that it's not all the truth, like. I said, well, look, you can check up anything on me, you know. And he checked everything up, like, and at times he made me angry, because he'd keep on about something, so you'd rear up on him. And I don't know if he's put it in the book or not, but it's going to be exciting when it comes out. That'll be out next year, the 20th. What's it out, darling? 20th of January next year. That's going to be called The New Guvnor.
I look forward to that. I'll have a read of that.
I don't know. I was even the governor before Roy Shaw gave me the belt. You know what I mean? And that's what they want. I used to feel wherever I went up, like you did with Northampton. Corby. Do you know? I can remember Corby was fantastic because I was fighting this big Welsh fella. He'd fought world title in the past as a pro. He was good. Who's the world title champion?
Dennis Andrews.
Dennis Andrews. He fought Dennis Andrews twice.
Great fighter.
And Dennis Andrews, he come back after being beat by Hitman Hearns to win a world title again, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And our man, Goroff.
Steve Yoroth.
A lot of respect to him, like.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes he'd get in a ring and clown about, like. But when he found out someone was a bit tasty, like you, he fought you.
He'd turn it on.
Eh?
Turn it on if he knew.
Oh, he'd turn it on. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And he fought one fella from Watford. He was good, wasn't he?
Stacey Dunn.
Stacey
Stacey was a great heavyweight. He was an ABA finalist. Great heavyweight, Stacey was.
He fought Matt Meg as well. And he fought with Yoroff, and Yoroff turned it on. And Yoroff was giving him trouble, like he gave him trouble. You know what I mean? This bloke could turn you on the ropes like anything. And I can remember at one stage, the ref told us to break, and I put my hands in the air, and bang, smacked me straight on the jaw. And I thought, he's climbed up, he had about 60 pro fights, he had nearly 300 amateur fights.
Yeah.
He had bare knuckle fights, 40 or 50 bare knuckle fights.
I think he had nearly close to 100 unlicensed as well.
Yeah, and he didn't care win or lose. Like the better they were, the harder he fought. Like, you know what I mean? If he got on with a clown or two, like he didn't really bother. Like, but if he got on with you, he got on with like Gary. I passed the belt to Gary Furby.
Yeah.
And Gary's a fucking brilliant boxer, and he wouldn't stop. You know what I mean? He like
good fighter, Gary.
He made a you know what I mean? And I think one of his fights was a draw as well. Like, you know. But now and again, he was good enough. He was good enough to be the best. You know what I mean?
So in your 20s, Norman, like your boxing's always been a part of it. But what work were you doing in your 20s? Door work or?
Always door work. Yeah. Door work.
So this would have been around the beginning of the raves. This would have been around the beginning of the rave times, late 80s. Early 90s.
The first place we really moved on, well, we was doing Oxford and Luton and Bedford and that.
Exodus
the first place we moved to was Milton Keynes for some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Agora in Wolverton.
Yeah.
And from there, the only place you had in Milton Keynes was called Peaches. That was the only nightclub at the time, but then it started blooming and the Point opened up, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everywhere what opened up, I'd work, you know what I mean? And soon after that was the raves come out, like, and I started working for Vic Bellamy, some Starguard security, like. I used to mine for all the top celebrities, like, you know. I didn't know who I might. I mean, Eric Clapton once come up to shake my hands, and he said, "You don't talk to them, don't shake their hands." That's, you know, he said, "You're minding, like, you're not allowed to do that."
Yeah.
So Paul McCartney had a chance to shake it. I'd love to, because I'm a lovely guy. I love people. I don't hate anyone, and I try the best. It's just a shame, you know what I mean? You get sucked into something like that, and it can, you know, you're living off yourself at the end, like, you know what I mean? And as it goes on, like, then things get involved, like guns and stuff like that, and you're not going to a fair fight. I see a fight the other day, and, you know, it's great seeing the Travellers fight, because as it goes on, do you want to shake hands?
Yeah.
And that's great, because half the time you're beating your life out of you, you're fighting, you know what I mean? And you're getting exhausted.
Yeah.
And if right at the end when you shake hands, it's probably, you know, it's a golden handshake. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, people like McPhee, when I fought McPhee and a few others all over the country, like, they stuck their hand out, a couple of times they stuck their hand out, and I didn't know it was whoever
Gave best.
McPhee killed 7 people, 7 or 8. Well, they reckon more than 8 people, like. 7 people they knew. So this bloke was out to kill me, like, you know.
Yeah.
And he put his hand out, and I grabbed his hand, but I stuck the nut on him. You know, and I'm against that, you know what I mean? I agree with the travellers.
Yeah.
If they put their hand out, shake it.
Shake it.
It's over, and
Yeah, it's done.
right. But it wasn't like that, you know. If someone put their hand out, like, you know what I mean? Well, my old was grab their hand and pull them to me and nut them.
Yeah.
Try and put them out. And in the fights, you know, some of them you try and kill your opponent. You weren't there to beat them.
You're there to either save your own life or take someone's life.
That's the, you know what I mean? That's the way it was. And you'd have some of the boys who wanted to work with me are lovely kids. Like one was Steve Francis. All right, he was a hard man. He would upset and he would hurt people in fights and that, like. But I didn't want to get him involved with me. He was a bit too young at the time, and I didn't want to get into trouble, like, you know what I mean? But I wish I did, like, because he ended up getting taken up the woods and shot, you know, killed. And that's another story, like, I don't really know, you know what I mean? I ain't got nothing bad or nasty to say about people. I don't agree with it, like, why should I? If I start slagging people down, if I slag my missus down, she's my best friend. Who's going to trust me?
Yeah.
I'm never going to slag her down. I've only got nice or else she'd beat me up.
Yeah.
But that's what I find. If you start slagging people down, it could be them next.
That's right.
So if you ain't got a bad word to say about no one, and I love everyone, I don't dislike no one. Oh, right, you get the wrong uns in prison, you got the wrong uns out there, but we know they're the wrong uns, like, you know what I mean? But I'm forgiving. I forgive everyone. Like, that's the best way to be, mate.
Good. Just touching on that, on the prison subject there. You know, you've served a bit of time.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah. So, what led to that sentence, and how, during that sentence, did you set yourself a kind of bar, really, Norman? Because I do know that there has been some successful fighters come from your influence.
Yeah.
So, you know, how did the prison sentence come about, and then?
Well, it was crazy. Towards the end, like, you know what I mean, towards the end of the 80s, the fighting, I mean, we would still fight, you know what I mean? And sometimes there'd be referees, sometimes there weren't referees. At the end, there'd be tools used, and like, it started getting out of hand. Yeah. And I'm afraid that they started bringing guns to the raves and that, and people started getting shot and killed. Well, I won't name no names, I don't want to upset anyone, like people's families, like, you know, the boys in the Range Rovers, and we got on this patch up London, like with my brother Alfie Buckland, and Sunrise, and Back to the Future, even all of them. I used to work for all of them different times. And we had this firm come up, and they said, listen, you're on our patch, you can have your raves there, like, let's work for you, like. And my brother said, this...
Work as in sell their things, or I work with them,
I basically, like, you know what I mean? I don't think I was scared of anything. I must have been stupid or something. But I think it was so...
Fearless, Norman. I call it fearless.
Bloody, you know what I mean? And I said, who are these? I said, fuck's sake, Norman, be nice to them, like, you know what I mean? I said, I'm nice to everyone. Then they said, the Intercity. ICF. And they were top boys. They, you know what I mean? They could handle themselves. They had one bloke, martial artist, a top martial artist. And I believe when I'd done time, there was a bit of confusion there. When I'd done time, they started doing a bit for Tony Ash, and I didn't know about that. You know what I mean? Because when I come out of prison, they said, "Do you work for?" I said, "Yeah." And I forgot they worked for him when I was away in prison. Like. So respect to them, like, you know.
So how long were you in prison? How long did you get, Norman?
I got 10 years, but I got 5 for the firearms. What stupid! Idiot I am, like, you know what I mean?
But at that time, if people were arriving at the venue you were securing with firearms...
Well, it's your house as well, mate.
You know...
Threats, like, you know what I mean?
Surely...
And it's not just from the raves. the door work, like, you know what I mean? All the door work I was doing, like.
Yeah.
I was working for Vic Bellamy. I was sparring with Vic Wright, actually. He was a pro boxer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Remember him, like?
yeah, I remember Vic. Yeah,
And meanwhile, I was sparring with these. I had some great professional sparring partners used to want me to spar, like. But I was not like heavyweight ABA champion, boxing in my own county. I could box, but the boxing started falling apart, and then it was going into street fighting. And I think my best fighting was on the cobble, street fighting. You know what I mean? Because it was when there used to be 5 or 6 people round, like, and they'd kick off in a nightclub or anything like that. I used to put my head down and run, about 20 stone, run into them as hard as I could. And you'd knock the first few over, and the rest, when they're knocked dizzy, they don't know what's going on, like.
Yeah.
So you can pick them off then, like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And the old door work in the 70s and 80s, it'd only be one doorman to a pub or a club.
that's
like,
right.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
When I come out of prison, they had walkie-talkies and they had little blue badges and everything, like, you know what I mean?
Yes, I am.
And it all changed. I still do a bit now, like, you know.
So, during the 10-year sentence, what prison did you spend in? Woodhill?
I went to Woodhill, yeah. That was
so-
a nice prison. I didn't realise it was, decent.
Like a kind of a 3-star hotel or 2-star?
Mate, I was eating every day, wasn't I? 4 times, 3 times a day.
Right, so while you were there, I know of at least 2 lads what you influenced, not just in their boxing careers, Norman, but in their life as well. So, what were you doing in the prison to kind of change kids' way of thinking towards crime and, trying to sort their lives out?
Well, the best thing whatever happened to me, kids get an education. Like, if you don't get an education, you'll end up like me. Best thing what happened to me was go to prison, really, truthfully.
Yeah.
Because I was dangerous, you know what I mean? The fighting game had gone by then, like, people were getting shot, and they were, like, a lot of people were getting shot, and the boys in the Range Rover, and it went stupid with guns for a while, like. Now, I didn't know if I was getting out, answering my door, getting shot on my doorstep, or going to work, getting shot at work, or going to a rave, going to London, or wherever I worked, getting shot. Because the death threats are out there, and my friends were being shot, killed, like, you know.
And you were getting death threats yourself?
Oh, they wouldn't mess about. They want to be out of the way. I got nothing against drug dealers. It's just, when I work, I don't want the drug dealers selling their drugs, and I don't want to take the drugs off them. So all I want them to do is take their drugs and piss off out of it.
Yeah.
Because of the
And some of them obviously didn't, and some of them obviously rubbed you up the wrong way, and then it would obviously end up.
Hundreds of thousands of pounds, there's millions of pounds to be earned for it, like, you know what I mean? And especially some of the gaffs, you know what I mean? I'll be working at Kentish Town, Camden, all over London, half the place I didn't know I was working. They'd be earning a lot of money out of drugs, a lot of money.
Yeah, massive amounts.
And I'd be stopping it, saying, bollocks, no, not on my patch, this is my
So
patch.
you are.
So they wanted to get rid of me,
Yeah.
of course they wanted to get rid of me, yeah.
But so you're in prison. I'm gonna mention his name. You met a guy called Matt Legg.
Matt, yeah, what a lovely guy.
Legend.
What a beautiful nature.
Absolute
guy.
gem of a man. Yeah.
It's strange because I could see a great fighter into a proper gentleman.
And he'd never boxed before you met him.
I didn't know what the hell he was doing in prison, like, you know what I mean? Because he'd never boxed before. He like the rest of the teenagers, they put me on the teenage wing, the YP wing.
Yeah. The lunatic asylum.
Luna fucking tick aside. I was right at home there, like. But you could hear them fighting and screaming all the time.
Yeah.
Fighting in physics, and be fighting here, fighting there. And the listeners would come in, they said, we can't talk to the screws, can't we? Oh, I got on with the screws, like, you know what I mean? And they said, we can't talk to the screws, like, you know what I mean? Can we talk to you? I said, what's up, mate? They said, listen, they're bullying there, they're stabbing each other, like, kids are going to hospital, one's committed suicide. They said, Norman, if you just walked on there, it's like, at one stage I had someone down the block, he was an old mate of mine, he killed himself. what was his name? Robert, I forget his name anyway. He ended up killing himself, like, and one of the screws said, if you just went down and told him the kid, hand her over, he kidnapped one of the prison warden women, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? He said he would, like, but they can't get you involved because you're in prison, like, you know. Oh, do you know, his name's gone completely now, Roberts. And we had another one, sorry I jumped stories. We had another one on 1B, bless. He was a lovely H from Oxford. That's his nickname, so I'm going to use it. He was a lovely fella, like. But one day he'd be frightened to talk to you. He'd suffer with something, like. And I thought, what's that? Talk to me, mate. What's that with you? And he used to frown down, like. And he'd come out, like, on an anger management course. As a kid, he was raped. He was sexually abused, like, you know.
Wow.
And he wasn't the only one. There was YPs there. There was a lot of prisoners that were being abused, like, you know. And I feel like getting these nonsense or paedophiles and taking them to a prison where now the kids they've abused are adults.
Yeah.
They ruin them for life.
That's right.
A scar like that won't go. It don't go, it's in them. And what they've got to understand, they've got to let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. I know it's nasty, it's horrible, and they don't want to say they've been raped. They're proper geezers, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're young men, like, they don't want to tell anyone. But it's in there. And because I used to be down, I used to help them. I think they see the gentle side of me.
Yeah.
So anyway, H, he said like, you know, he was raped and sexually abused and that. And I think the bloke got time, but he was in his late 20s. He ended up getting the fella and killing him, like, you know.
Wow.
So he was in prison for
Rest of his life. Yeah.
But because he suffered with depression, he set his cell on fire while he was banged up, like, you know. I think he's still alive, like, God bless him. He's a lovely geezer, like. It's not his fault, he was sexually abused, he's embarrassed about it. He shouldn't be embarrassed, he's got to let it go, like, it's what I used to say to the kids, like, you know what I mean?
So, Matt, let's go back to Matt. Matt had never boxed before.
He was a fucking
Was there any sparring with towels on your hands?
Oh, Scott. Do you know, he was the only fella who wouldn't leave me alone. Every day it was.
Yeah.
But he had something else about him. I don't know what it was. You could just see him, like, I used to say to him at times, like, I said, you'll be in the spotlight one day. I said, maybe twice. And I said, it'll be with a world champ, and we'd rather you win or lose, I don't know. But I said, I promise you now, if you take up boxing when you get out, you will be with the big boys.
And he was. James Toney, Anthony Joshua. We were there that night. I was in Matt's corner at the James Toney fight at Bethnal Green. I was his trainer then.
You used to be his coach, didn't
Yeah,
you?
I was his trials training, mate.
I used to box. You was down there on the same shows as me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it great, wasn't it, eh?
Yeah, they were great days. But Matt wouldn't have got where he got if it wasn't for your input, Norman.
I used to want the kids to get it. It could have been your child. It could have been my child. It could have been you watching this now. It could have been any of your children, like.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a great person, but if I was there and your kids are doing time and they're in trouble, of course I'd try and help them out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And somehow boxing, a lot of them wanted to be gangsters because they were kids and they'd watch the films and everything. Every youngster wanted to be a gangster, like. And my idea was, I have met the gangsters. I've been with the gangsters. I mean, I've got to tell you this story now. This is great. Some of the kids used to be hard to break. And you used to try and be nice to them, like, but they were... And they'd go down the block, and like, you know, I used to go down the block to see if they're all right, like, and sometimes... I mean, people think it's easy down the block, but sometimes it'd be winter and the windows be open, no heating, and they'd take the mattress off the bed. There'd be no mattress, and they'd only be in with a T-shirt. I used to kick off about it. And I used to say to the boys, what's happening? Who's looking? Are you getting bullied down there? They said, no. He said, it's a big geezer down there. He's great. He's training us. I said, what do you mean? What's he doing? They said, he gets on our shoulders, like, he runs around, and he teaches us to box and everything, like you do. He's like you. And I said, well, who is he then, like, you know what I mean? And I kept getting these good stories back, like, and he's still away now. He's been away 40, 50. Bronson.
Charles Bronson.
What a lovely geezer. And he used to look after the kids. He used to look after the really difficult ones, you know what I mean? What used to go down the block. I used to try and save them from going down the block.
But when they got
when
down
they went
there, he was looking
on
after.
the other side, so they had me in the YP wing helping them, and him down the block.
Yeah.
And he did help a lot of these kids, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when they used to go down, I said, look, you know, go and see Charlie, right? And he'll help you out, like, you know.
Yeah.
And
Let's hope some of them,
yeah.
you know, took a lot of the help
people
on board.
say he's a nasty person, this, that, and the other. But you know what I see of him in prison. I mean, he did take a few hostages. He was good with the kids, the youngsters, like, you know what I mean. And he'd talk to them and help them out. He used to train them to death, like. They used to come back and knackered, and I'd take my hat off to him, like, you know what I mean. He's got a good heart on him, like, and hopefully I'd like to see him out one day. I'd like to shake his hand and tell him thanks for helping me.
Good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's nice.
Because he done his bit, like, you know what I mean. Matt was all right. He didn't go down the block, so he didn't meet him.
So Matt, from that sentence, came out and started his boxing career.
Yeah, he was fiery.
But when you came out,
Yeah.
where were you at that point, Norman? What, you know, you got out, you finished. What did you do out the 10 years? 8, 7?
No, I done well. 5. Well,
So you got parole?
5 and 5 went together, like 5 for one thing and 5 for the other.
So you done
down to 5 years. 10 years dropped down to, because 5 went on top of the other.
So it ran concurrent.
Then I'd done 3 years out of 5. They put me 2 years. They put me. I was in the YP wing. No disrespect to the screws or the prison officers. I got on well. This is what I told the kids when they'd come in as well. Like, I kept saying, look, the next prison you go to, the prison officers will pick out what prison you go to.
Yeah.
So I said, you know, you're very abusive and rude to them. You know, you tell them to fuck off and everything.
You'll probably be put up past Manchester or something.
The next one. I said, you know what Brixton's like?
Yeah.
You want to go to Brixton? You think I'm tough? You go to Brixton, meet some of the boys there, like. I said, they ripped the arse out of him, literally, like, you know what I mean? And they'd listen, like, you know what I mean? And I used to tell them straight, you know, well, you probably have, if you got brought up by your grandmother, they'd put you up to Scotland. How would your grandmother? And when you do prison, especially for the kids, it's the parents who do the time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's your support system what is serving the sentence. Yeah. Be it your family, be it, you know, close relatives or whatever. And this is what a lot of the kids don't really understand, Norman. They look at prison sentences now like it's a little bit of kudos, it's a badge of honour. When they get behind them doors, as I'm sure you have, I've seen kids crumble. You know, so, you know, these kids portray such an image of being the bad man and being this man, but I've seen them actually crumble.
They used to get all their stuff they used to buy, like a little canteen place.
Yeah.
Walk out of there, and the boys used to take it off them, everything. Tobacco, everything.
Yeah.
And even if they had money and spent money, what they get off the parents, they used to take everything off them.
Yeah.
And of course, these are tough boys.
Yeah.
Right? Except for Matt, he didn't get good. But with Matt, he was good because they used to let me onto other wings. Like I didn't want to hurt anyone really. You know what I mean? That was work, like, you know what I mean.
But you were used by the staff as kind of a peacekeeper.
Yeah, I like the staff, especially the women. Like, I thought they had a lot of bottle, like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They used to take a bit of stick now and again.
Well, look, they're just doing a job, Norman, and it's probably...
And you can't beat the system.
Well, you can't beat it, but that job is probably one of the most demanding jobs.
I think I used to take headaches off them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to play fight with them all at times, about 60 of them.
God,
Especially with Matt.
they were fucking brave, weren't they?
Well, I used to grab them and throw them into Matt, mate.
A little bit of sparring for Matt.
There was no real slaps and kicks and punches and that. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when I used to spar box. Like, I mean, I was lightweight champion now, so I could box. But back in the day, like, I mean, up London, Kentish, up London, like the last fights I had, like, I mean, I was old. I was nearly 50, like, you know what I mean? But I could still go full 3 rounds, flat out, like, you know what I mean? But I lost the straight jab and. I used to knock them out with body punches all the time. Wherever I hit in the body, it was automatic. They used to go straight over, like. But
the fights, what I've watched of yours, not just being on the same show, but you know, I used to go down to Streatham a lot to watch the shows if I wasn't boxing on them. I've seen some very brutal affairs with you involved, Norman. You were very, very brutal, very aggressive.
I didn't know, honestly. I swear
But
to God, I didn't know.
I think with a lot of your opponents, because of, you know, the way you were winning fights commanded that you were matched up with guys who are at a very good level. So they obviously had to bring their A game when they fought you. So your aggression and your savageness, because I did see some savagery.
Well, I've got to tell the truth now. There's been books, I've been into books, and there's some of them saying, look, we're telling all the truth. The first fight was JJ I fought, and of course you go out to meet them, like shake their hands and that. That's the way I always was. Like,
Yeah.
There's a lot of the fights I had, it was on top straight away. Like you didn't know it was kicking off. Like about a dozen people kicking off, and you got to sort it out. So I went up and shook AJ. He's with his dad, shook his dad's hand and his brother like, and he said, "You won't kick me. You jump on my head when I'm on the floor." I said, "What do you mean jump on your head when I'm on the floor?" I said, "You're going to take a fucking dive or something?" He said, no. I said, if you think you're going to take a dive with me, mate.
This was outside the ring.
This is before we got in there. Like,
That's
why I was wound up. I jumped out and knocked someone out before.
Yeah. I was there this night.
I said, listen, I've watched up to then the fights before. I see him fight. I think he was your British champion or something. He was good. And I said, look, mate. And I got angry with Joey Powell and Ricky English. And don't say that's a lie, because I'll have you two fucking with me and I'll sort it out, like, you know what I mean? I went and see them, like, I said, listen, mate, I said to JJ, shook his hand, and I see his dad and his brother. I said, listen, if you knock me out, I'll shake your hand now. I said, you must go and try and knock me out. I said, it's not worth fighting if you're going to fall over. He wouldn't fucking go down, would he?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Jesus Christ.
But that was a brutal little fight, that was.
God, I attacked him like. The only thing is, I was used to welterweights. I was sparring with welterweights. My son, he was only 15, Joey Buckland. Billy Joe, Brandon Buster Buckland.
Yeah, Buster, yeah.
Now, he was a good boxer. And I used to have trouble with him, sparring with him, like, you know what I mean? And because he was lighter, he made me a lot faster.
Yeah.
And you're not throwing your full weight. So a lot of the fights I had, I weren't throwing my full weight. I should have done, like, but it was a sparring. I got so used to sparring like that. But he was, I don't think he ever lost the fight. He fought down Caesar's Palace twice. He fought ex-professionals, like. He didn't have many amateur fights. He could have gone on. And I said, he wanted me to carry on training. I said, son, this is your future now. Can you make it any other way?
Yeah.
I said, use boxing, but snatch everything else, like.
Yeah.
And he went into the film game, like, you know what I mean? And from there, he's got his own scaffolding firm. What are they called, darling? BSS. Good scaffolding firm.
Yeah,
fantastic. He's got Lauren.
You did a bit of film work.
Yeah. I could do that. Like now, I can talk. I'm not scared of the cameras or anything. I love the cameras.
Yeah.
But if you tell me, you know what I mean? If you say, look, Norman, I want you to say this, I want you to say that.
Yeah.
I forget, like, you know what I mean? And I couldn't remember the lines or anything.
But you were at. I remember you being at the premiere. I was in that film with Joe and Rob Reed and.
You was in a lot. I can remember you as a lot as a kid, even in prison. Like, he used to talk about you. You know what I mean?
Slag me off.
Like you said, like, you know, you're the same as me. We've made mistakes.
We make mistakes.
We've made mistakes, and I'm telling the youngsters out there, don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Education. I mean, that's a world title. You get an education, you've got a world title.
Yep.
You get an education, you're bigger than me, you're bigger than the governor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're somebody.
And
Me, I'll never be the governor, but I can't write books. You know what I mean? I can't remember, you know what I mean, the stories. Half the time I can't spell. You know what I mean? It's hell, and you want to break out of hell.
Yeah.
Get yourself an education. If you want to be a hard man, you want to be a gangster, go down to a boxing club. Give me a couple of weeks down there, a couple of months. Let's see how tough you are. If you think you're tough and can have a few fights, I don't care if you win or lose. Get in there, have a few fights.
Yep.
If you're good, then go on. You know, someone down the boxing club was saying, yeah, I've turned out ABA champions. Yeah, that's great. I've turned out fucking people who fight for world titles. You know what I mean? Some of the hardest boys in the country I've turned out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta help people. You know, I love helping people. I love being kind, and I don't like being horrible to people. You know what I mean?
While we're touching down on the helping and that, this generation was coming through Norman. They seem to be very intent on knife crime and firearms. But as you say, firearms was coming in a couple of decades ago, but now it seems to be so much more prolific. What, you know, look, we could be classed as role models. We could be classed as, you know, whatever these young kids look up to us as. How can we, in the position we're in, help, you know, try and drop the need for knives, the need for guns, and, you know, if there's got to be a point, Norman, where we have to step up and really not just help them, but show them, you know, that it's not the way forward. It's not gonna, you know, look, because look at listen, okay, so let's go down this route of, if I stabbed you or you stabbed me, either I die and you go to prison for life.
Yeah, yeah. There's no winning. No one
Right.
wins.
Well, look at the winning side of it, if there is any point of winning. The winning side of it is you've won the fight by killing me. The losing side of it is your family now will suffer for the rest of your life because they've got to support you. They've got to give you, because the prison system won't give you anything.
No, they won't give
If anything, they will just take from you.
Yeah, yeah.
My family's life is devastated because they've lost a member of it. Yeah. You know, so these kids, they're coming through now and they're thinking that this knife crime and the gun crime and the gang culture is kind of like, this is like a badge of honour. I've got to get involved in this. And once they've been hit with these big sentences and their world starts to implode on them, you know, I think that's when they start realising, shit, this weren't the life I really wanted. Because no one was born into hate. We were all born into love. Everyone, we're human beings.
I still keep it now, like, you know what I mean? So really, we're looking at, you don't want to fall out with people. Learn to respect and learn to forgive. You must forgive.
But you see, boxing is a great sport where respect is respect is paramount.
Yeah, you don't, like I say with boxer, you could lose every fight and I still love you.
Yeah, because
you're getting in the ring.
You've had the balls to get through them ropes.
Yeah. And that change room now, walk into that ring, like me, it's a long time because I generally get into fights walking there.
I remember that night very well. I remember that.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I'll be fighting in the change room, fighting on the way out. And I lost 2 stone from one fight. Someone called me a fat bastard, and that's it. I jumped straight out the ring like, it's discipline. Use your brain, like, you know what I mean. You've got to forgive people. You've got to let it. Once you can forgive, you can forget.
You know, because, you know, these kids are fighting now, Norman, over a postcode. You're not living in that postcode, and they're trying to take your life because you don't live there. Yeah. You know, so...
I got... The good thing, me and my brother got, we were on the doors with my dad, Alfie Buckland. He was army champion, like, he had his own boxing club. We used to train down, that's how come we got into it so good, like, Alfie Boxing Club. And you're involved with it, like, and the only thing he used to tell me, it wasn't a gun, it wasn't an axe, it was a knife. Watch they don't pull a knife. Yeah. And he had this thing about knives, he didn't like knives. And of course he in Aylesbury years ago, like, he was in the Crown pub, he was doing the door, and someone broke a glass and went across, just like a knife, across someone's throat. Yeah. And he tried to catch it to stop the boy from running, dead. Yeah. He's blood to death, you know what I mean? They got to understand it's pathetic to pull a knife. It's disgusting, right? Especially, you know, I'll give the travellers credit, like, you know what I mean? Massive amount. Massively, like, you know what I saw with who was it? It was the Joyces. Yeah, I see a fight with the Joyces. Well, they were refereeing it in that, like. I'd take my hat off to them. That was fantastic. And they were saying in between the fight, and they made sure it was just a fight between these boys and nothing else. in between they were saying, do you want to shake hands now?
Yeah.
These boys were exhausted, like, do you want to shake hands? And they shook hands, and that was it, like. I think it's great. I think they should, these boys should be on TV.
Yeah,
this
well,
together.
they should be given a lot more credit than what they've been given, and get given.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think we've got a lot of work to do, Norman, to get back to that kind of mentality of it's fisticuffs or nothing.
Yeah.
But
they had more of a chance than what I had as a kid. When you got in a fight, you had to nearly kill your man.
you had to get him.
And, you know, jump on his head so he never got up. Right?
Yeah.
Or if he got up, one thing my dad would always tell me, don't fight the same fight twice.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you'd have to hurt. But this was good because these boys would get exhausted with the travellers, like, if they took, you know, if they were refereeing it or whatever, like, and it used to take a lot out of you, the exhaustion, like, the tiredness, like, and you're hurting each other, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it'd be a lesson well taught, like.
Oh.
So I'll take it off. And if you go there, like, they're not going to have 2 or 3 blokes against one bloke. It's going to be kept fair, like.
Yeah, definitely.
And that goes back, my generation, my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents.
Yeah.
Like, this is where it's all come from, the travellers, the Jews and the Irish, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all coming out now. They're coming world champions again.
Come on.
You know?
Come on.
I think the Irish were always there anyway. The Jews, they took over the fight game for well, you couldn't, in a pro fight, the Raging Bull, like, he could only fight one person because the mafia had taken over
Heavyweight boxing.
All the boxing, like, and it was the Jews, and then the Italians. First it was the Irish. It's funny how it works, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then the Irish become the big prime ministers, like. So then the Italians got in there, like. But the Irish would become prime ministers. Originally were gangsters, and the gangsters ended up shooting them because they actually said, if my John Kennedy can get into power and take over,
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
John Kennedy can take over, we'll lay off the Italian gangsters.
Yeah.
So the deal was done with John Kennedy's dad and the top mafia line. They shook on it. Like, no, I don't know if you know about it. A lot of people don't know about it. But he didn't keep to his word, did he?
That's right.
When John Kennedy became president,
He went after the mafia.
they went after the mafia, went back on their word. And even today, no one knows who shot John Kennedy.
That's right.
But if you look in the records and find out the history, you'll find out what happened and how it happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like the mafia now. They've, you know, I just wish the guns and knives and that would just, you know, because I've dealt with people's children. I've seen people killed. I've had kids that was after work with me, and I've backed them off because my life was too tough. And I thought they'd end up dead. Yeah. But they didn't. They ended up dead anyway.
That's right,
you know?
because...
And some of these kids, they get back to me on Facebook now, they're doing well. Some of them are really doing well, you know. And they all say thanks, you know what I mean?
But
and it's
that,
like,
you see a tiny little...
Leg, do a prison sentence like I did to help that leg out. I'm glad I went to prison.
Yeah, well, you've made something positive for somebody on your journey.
Yeah.
This is what we want to try and do now, Norman, is just try and, even if we get kids thinking differently, maybe they might not do something differently, but if they're thinking differently, we've made a start, we've made a little bit of progress. You know, look, the government now, they've taken a lot of the opportunities for youth. You know, you must remember as a kid, community centres, you know, youth clubs. Not just boxing gyms, but youth clubs where kids had somewhere to go and socialise actively instead of sitting in a bedroom on a PlayStation. You know, because I think this is destroying a lot of kids' confidence. A lot of their socialising skills are being diminished through all of this madness, I think it is. Do you know what I mean? Sitting on a computer all day long. We were out. Normally, if I came in my house before 8 o'clock in the evening, my mother would beat me. She would beat me and send me back out. I could not come home before 8 o'clock. I would get leathered. This is not happening with kids now. They're stuck in their bedroom. There's no kind of get up and go. There's no, you know, it's like they've got no will anymore, Norman. So, you know, it is a shame. But you see, with a bit of insight and a little bit of knowledge passed down from us of what we've been through, so they don't have to go through it. You know, knife crime, be you the perpetrator or the victim. You don't have to be that, either of them. You know, there's a different path here. We can help, I think, by putting our stories across and just kind of guiding kids a different.
Yeah, I'll give credit my kid, the last lot, but they've all been in trouble, like, you know what I mean? But they're all kids get in trouble. But I had to bring the last 4 up by myself, and 2 different wives and a different girlfriend, like, so it was difficult, like, you know, the travellers used to look after them, like, but me and the net, we went up Aylesbury one night. I was training up there, went out to McDonald's, and I thought it was Halloween. It was Halloween, but all the windows, I thought there was cobwebs up the windows.
Yeah.
But every window had been smashed, and I could hear people, what's Aylesbury coming to? Every window in the McDonald's was smashed, like, and for some reason I thought of my daughter. Anyway, my daughter got brought home. She'd been gassed, pepper sprayed. She was 14, like, and they've done me a favour, the old bill in the past. When my kids have disappeared overnight and they've gone to Wickham or London or whatever, and they've been brought home like early hours of the morning, and we said, we brought your kids home, like, I owe them respect, like, you know what I mean? And this is what I always say to them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, these days you'll think that the old bill are bad. I said, they brought you home when you needed to be home, like, you know what I mean? They've helped me, like, you know what I mean? So I've got great respect for them to help. I'm not saying they're you know what I mean, but they have helped me, like, you know what I mean? I don't see them as being enemies or bad people. They've got a job to do.
They've got a job to do, the same as prison officers, the same as a lot of authority-based, you know, employees. But you see, you know, a lot of the youth, because of the lack of education, they don't really understand what these people's jobs are for. You know, and it's not just to lock them up or punish them, or it's to give them a chance.
This is what I was trying to explain to my daughter, like, you know what I mean? She'd gone up there with a girl that had been banned from there. Even the police used to have to come up and handcuff the girl and put her in leg irons, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To take this girl away, like, she's fucking mad, this girl was. And she wasn't allowed in there. So she got my daughter to go in there with my daughter, like, and daughter's easily led, isn't she? She didn't know what happened. Of course, the blessing, the manager, like, has gone ape shit, and it's ended up in the fight, like, he's gone to throw my daughter out, she kicked him in the ghoulies, like, and, you know, she was 14, like, and he shouldn't have done that, he manhandled her, but the poor geezer's trying to earn a living, like, you know what I mean? It's his job, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I said, because the old Bill said, like, they said, oh, we ain't got that in camera. I said, well, you have somewhere, like, I said, look, I've seen her manhandled, like, I said, I can understand it, like, you know what I mean? That's his patch, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's his McDonald's, like, you know, he's had a lot, he couldn't take no more, like, and they said, all right. I said, well, how much do I owe for all the windows? They said, no, it's insured, like, you know what I mean? They said, but your daughter will have to go on this programme, like, blah, blah, blah. And they did, the social services did come in, did try and help her, you know what I mean? But it's because I wanted to go along with them and the old Bill.
Yeah.
I went along with them. I said, listen, you know, I've got to bring the kids up by myself. I have got problems, like, you know what I mean? And they do get out of hand a bit at times, like, and all I can ask you is, can you please help me, like?
Yeah.
And that's all these kids have got to say, please.
Yeah, just ask for the help.
That's all you got to say, please help me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there will be someone to help.
There will be.
If
I had to go in the roughest prison in the world to help someone's kids out, or even kids I don't know, or even kids I hate, I would. Because I know you can end up like me. You can end up in prison. You know what I mean? You could be the nicest person in the world, and you're thinking, why has God got it in for me? Like, you know what I mean? There's targets. You do get punished sometimes. You know what I mean? It can be cruel, but I've come out of it. I mean, I'm nearly 60. I've got a lovely Filipino wife. She won't even let me bath myself or shower myself. She puts my clothes on, my socks on. I'll say no. She said, no, I do that. I put your socks on.
Oh, God bless.
And Jesus, what else you do for me? Everything. I went down for my injection yesterday, And she had hold of me, and they said, yeah, he can't go down by himself, he can't read all right. And they said, well, what do you do for it? She said, I'm a carer. She's a carer.
Yeah.
And they thought she was my carer. So I thought, so I'll just go along, like, she pulled me around by the hand and everything, like, and, it's lovely. And it's come late in life. It could have come earlier if I had the brains and education.
Better late than never, Norman.
But it's come late, and I think that's my reward by trying to help people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a reward, like, sometimes it comes late, but I appreciate it comes late, you know what I mean?
As the great Ali said, the good you do for others is the price you pay for your room here on earth.
Yeah, of course you do, yeah.
I think that's a beautiful saying.
Yeah.
And you know, surely we can give something to these kids to show
I'd
them.
go anywhere. You could put me anywhere in the world to go and help the kids, and I would.
Yeah.
I swear to God, anyone there's watching this now, I swear to God, you could put me anywhere for people's kids trying, you know what I mean?
Maybe, Norman, something can come of this where we will be asked to do something like that, you know, to go and talk.
We go back years, we do, right?
Yeah,
We've been in the changing room, training, haven't we?
Yeah.
I was going, how's this geezer? You said, you know how he fights. I said, yeah, but how can I cheat to get it? He used to go to the body, short uppercuts, like, and this and that. We used to have a chat before the fight. And he used to get all the crowd. And when he used to leave, the crowd used to leave with him.
They only came to see me get knocked out, Norman.
He never got knocked out. He had 7 fights and won them all.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Light heavyweight champion. I thought he was after my belt. I was retiring.
That's why I wasn't.
If he wanted to fight me, I would have retired. Yeah.
I wasn't moving up to heavyweight, Norman.
He was great. And wherever you'd go, it'd be a good crowd. Like, I can remember in Corby, they looked like gangsters, flipping traveller gangsters, great big bodybuilders, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I thought, geez, they've come to watch me, like, hey, come to watch him. when he left, they all left. Oh my God. But Corby, I like the Corby people.
Yeah, they're great people.
Everywhere I went, like, you know what I mean? And I used to like shaking people's hands, like, I used to say it, but I mean, it was fun. Later on in life, in my 40s and 50s, I was too old. I was too old. But I could just get through what I could get through. And that was it, like. But I used to give it, who's the governor? I'm the governor! I'm the fucking governor! Ah! And of course I used to get off on it, like, didn't I? Yeah. And if someone give it to me going to the round, they used to fucking get it.
Yeah,
it was, but I would go with you. I'd go anywhere in the world, any country, any prison. I would go through hell, just to help the kid out.
Lovely.
I would do. I've done it before. I got a bravery award. It was a shame the kid died, like, but that was through a fire, like, you know what I mean? And it was on a site. I knew the kids were in there. I said to my mum, the kids are in there. And she said, yeah. And I went straight through the window, like. But the fire had gone, the kids had died by then. But the old Bill gave me a bravery award. You know what I mean? Fair play to them, like Thames Valley Police. You know, 1 minute they're putting me in prison, the next minute they're all shaking my hand, like.
Yeah.
So I knew out of bad.
They're human beings.
Like.
They're human beings. Yeah.
And I realised you've got to have respect. These people have looked after my kids, like.
Yeah.
You know, they've always brought my kids home. And even when they brought them home, they told them off. You shouldn't talk to so-and-so, like. And if they've been rude to the old Bill, like, I said, don't be rude to the old Bill. I said, you know what I mean? I said, because I'm on their side, you know? And I've realised the respect, they've got a lot of respect. My pony used to get out the field, onto the road all the time. And they always used to have a woman or someone who could handle horses, bring it back. Yeah. And they never used to tell me off, like, just put the fence back, like. And they used to have the horse or the pony on the thing used to bite me. It didn't bite down or anything. Didn't we? We had one, was crazy it was. I went down and the snow must have been like that. And I was worried. You know, it was down in the barn, like, and I was worried in case he didn't have any food. So I got a load of hay and stuff, like, and took it down the barn. And I had the hood over the headlight, so I couldn't see it. And it thought I was teasing it, taking the food to the barn instead of feeding it there. And it headbutted me and kicked me, like. And I had it back. I lost my cool with it. Do you know, for 3 weeks, they wouldn't let me back in the field. It kept chasing me every time.
I bet.
Yeah, it chased me every time. Every time I got in the field, so I couldn't feed it. I couldn't throw the food over, wouldn't let me. Then it clocked on like I was feeding it, like, and I slapped it because it attacked me. Travellers used to come down, bless. So I've still got a ring down my place in the barn. And now and again, when there's a fight,
That's a legendary ring, Norman.
they come down there like it's been there 50 years, 100 years. Been there since before I was born. Like I still live where I was born, and people still come out there with differences or a bit of training.
Yeah, it's a legendary ring.
The come down there. They jump straight on the back of the horse, like, and the horse kicked them all over the place. They're going in the stinger nettles and everything, like. But yeah, I don't want kids to end up like me. You know what I mean?
This is what this podcast is all
I should
about.
have even gone the way I did, but it was no education, no parents there when I needed the parents, no food, no clothes, nothing. But now, I think by dishing a bit of love out, it's come back for me. Like, you know, it's come back and said, like, okay, you've had it fucked, you've out with you people out. Now we give you a lovely woman that's going to love you the rest of your life.
Lovely.
And you know, I'm knackered now. I can't fight anymore. You know what I mean? I'd love to. You know, we're still world champions, aren't we?
And I don't think we'll ever stop fighting the fight of life.
But I've learned now, like, you know what I mean? You've got to, like, she goes mad. She won't let me fight or anything. Spar, she won't even let me spar now, will you?
You know the reason.
Yeah, there's reasons she won't let me spar, yeah. Health issues. But they catch up to you, you know what I mean? They catch up to you. And you don't tell people, you know what I mean? I should be sparring, but if someone comes down, like, and make sure she's not watching, and I don't know. We've had a great life. Matt Legg, all the boys I've helped, I appreciate, and I'm glad. So I've done a bit of time, but I helped some boys out. So they didn't end up dead. They ended up, you know what I mean, getting a good reputation, good boxers. And mainly, I'm mad about the boxing. Yeah. Even if you don't want to, just go down there.
Just try it.
Because some of these boys I've sent down there, some of them were puffs. And they turned out to be great fighters. Yeah. You don't realise what you've got, you know what I mean, until you test it and put it to, you know. It's the fighting and the boxing, and I respect the travellers, the way they do it. Like, they keep asking the boys, you had enough, you want to shake hands? So they don't want the boys to kill each other. They want the boys to make up. That was the best way to make boys make up.
Respect.
And it's fantastic. So really, boxing and fighting it's the old way, isn't it? Yeah. That's how we do disputes. Yeah. It's always done disputes. But the knives and the guns, you've got to drop them, boys, you know, because you'll end up in prison like me, you know what I mean? Perfect. And once you end up like, you know what I mean, bless him, Charlie was down the block, Charlie Bronson, and he needs to come out, bless him. Like I've seen him out the kids out. Matt's fantastic as well. I'm glad I bumped into Matt. Yeah. And there's a lot of boys I've trained up, you know what I mean, in prison. And now and again they contact me or come round the house and they say, you know, they'll thanks.
Respect, don't know.
And of course it means a lot to me. Like,
yeah, it's a mark of respect, mate.
Right, but it touches you in the heart, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I've been good. I've tried to help people out the best I can, like. And if it means we throw these belts about saying who's the governor, like, well, look. You know, Roy Shaw, thank you. Lenny McLean, thank you. Joey Paul, Rick English, thank you. You've helped me to help other people. Lovely. God bless you. Love you all.
On that note, Norman.
Thank you, sir.
Brilliant. Absolutely
great. Cheers, mate.
Cracking.
Hey.